This is Saturn Girl. Like this video and subscribe to my channel. Comment below because I want to know what you think and it helps me out with the algorithm. Also, do me a favor and click the bell when you subscribe so that you get notified when my new videos drop. And my videos are the best. Well, anyway, Merry Christmas! And Merry New Year! Ha 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 ha. Sorry, that was from Trading Places, the classic 1980s comedy, starring Dan Aykroyd, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Eddie Murphy. But what's cracking besides the holidays? And my lips, am I right? Well, anyway, on December the 30th, Jupiter, our fabulous father of fortune, will station direct in Taurus, where he's been hanging out retrograde since September 4th. It feels like ages, doesn't it? But let's take a look at this fun chart, shall we? Here's Jupiter, retrograde. And let's move forward, Daddy Jupiter. Here we go. And there we see him stationing. Station, Daddy, station. And then, boom! Direct. Yes? You see, Jupiter will be in Taurus until May 25th of the coming year. And the natal house that he's in our charts will show us where we can experience some positive changes. Of course, depending on other factors in our charts. And what's that mean? It means we're gonna do your horoscopes in this video. Shh. So watch until the end, okay? Right? Well, anyway, Jupiter went into Taurus this past May, and he stays in a sign for about a year, and goes retrograde once during that time for about a 4-month period or so. But what does Jupiter going direct mean for you, for me, for us? Well, it's quite fitting that I mentioned this movie, Trading Places. Most of you are probably too young or uninteresting to remember that movie, but it takes place around Christmas and New Year's. You see, Dan Aykroyd plays a rich Nepo baby who works on the New York Stock Exchange for one of the oldest brokerage firms in the US, right? Run by a couple of elitist oligarchs who, right, in their boredom, decide to play a game of sociological reversals, right? I want to play a game. It's a little bit different, though. You see, they make a bet as to whether they can turn Aykroyd, right, a young, bougie, successful socialite, into a desperate and depraved criminal, while also turning a panhandling homeless person, played by Murphy, into a high-powered broker and a popular playboy for a bet of $1. You gotta see the movie to understand the joke. But anyway, these two megalomaniacal old men succeed in totally destroying Aykroyd's life, while also elevating Murphy's. But you see, then, Aykroyd and Murphy join forces in the end, spoiler alert, right, to put these two old guys out of business. Yeah? But what's this have to do with Jupiter going direct? Well, to me, the story illustrates how our material conditions shape our psychology. But it also teaches us the value of love and friendship in the midst of great upheavals in our lives. You see, Jupiter is Lord of fortune and abundance. And Jupiter retrograde is all about big reversals in fortune and our material situations. Jupiter inflates things, yes, makes them expand. Retrogrades do what? They bring reversals. If something is going bad, it will get better. If something is going good, it will get worse. Typically. I mean, remember Murphy Lee, right? What goes up must come down, but we ain't coming down. It be the same old clowns, aiming your pound, pretending they're proud, but when you leave town, they go around running the mouth, right? Remember that song? What the hook gonna be? Uh-oh. Anyway, came out when I was in college. But so you see, Jupiter retrograde is embodied in this movie with the extreme reversals in fortune for both Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. But We can also recognize the quality of Jupiter direct here and bringing the situation to justice. That is, taking away all these rich dudes' money, right? It's too funny because Jupiter in Taurus makes me think of Wall Street, like, and the stock exchange. You know that big brass statue, the Merrill Lynch statue in New York, right? Big brass bull with big brass bull balls. That's what I think of. Well, anyway, but what does Jupiter signify? Right? We talked about fortune and abundance, yes, but he's also religion, philosophy, wealth, honors, and benevolence. He's our beliefs and ideologies. As we said earlier, he also blows things up and makes them bigger. In Taurus, he's particularly focused on resources and our material situations. Perhaps it's a bit ironic that we see Jupiter in Taurus during several big financial crashes in the United States. There were the panics of 1857 and 1893. There was the dot-com bubble burst in the year 2000. And there was the COVID crash of 2020. Jupiter retrograde in Taurus makes me think of tightening our belts, right? You see, it often brings restraints or contractions, sometimes necessarily so, while Jupiter direct blows them back up again, right? Sometimes we see justice or retribution. We saw examples of this during the last retrograde, didn't we? For example, a famous Van Gogh painting was stolen while Jupiter was direct in March 2020, and then returned while he was retrograde. And an IKEA bag, no less. Like, how anticlimactic, It's like, where's my Jorgenpluffen? Oh, wait, it's a Van Gogh, Anyway. And then we also saw the Russell Brand allegations emerge while Jupiter was just retrograde, right? That's sort of a classic example. There was also the United Auto Workers strikes, or UAW, right? Which started while Jupiter was retrograde and continued for most of it. This is my idea of a trading places type moment, right? Realizing your power against established power and using it. Well, also, former President Donald Trump was found guilty of fraud, right? That is, overinflating, very Jupiterian, his property values, right? But when Jupiter went retrograde, it sort of took all the wind out of those sails, didn't it? This also reminds me of a little trading places moment, doesn't it? But, other thing. We also had the awful Hamas attacks on Israel during Jupiter retrograde. And then Israel responded with a medieval-style siege of Gaza. And it's left about, well, according to the numbers I have most recently seen, about 20,000 dead. And around 7,000 dead children. And it's interesting because Jupiter was retrograde during the original Nakba of 1948. When Palestinians were first forced out of their land. It's also interesting that the UAW, the United Auto Workers Union, just called for immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Well, and then, last year during Jupiter retrograde, we got the Inflation Reduction Act, which sought to curb some of the runaway prices, right? I'm talking commodities prices, like trading places. In fact, the major commodity in question during trading places is frozen concentrated orange juice. I mean, this time around, it's meat and eggs and all that stuff. That was, sort of a problem. Anyway, this act, the Inflation Reduction Act, also committed the United States to some very minimal measures to reduce climate change, which is another example of a beneficial restraint or contraction, isn't it? So you see, sometimes there are benefits to restraining Jupiter because he gets out of control. Just look at Sagittarians, right? But what do I foresee now that he's direct? Well, I think we'll see prices go back up, quite honestly. We're anticipating interest rates going back down, which, can make prices go up, you see. But that also includes mortgage rates going down. So if you had been trying to buy property and just couldn't with interest rates that high, this may be a better year coming up to do it. So we'll likely see economic issues that could drastically affect the elections. We'll likely see an inflated market. I think oil prices will go back up and drilling will expand even more. And voters will likely react to an increase in gas prices. Yes, which, could be a problem. We're about to enter the primary election season. Yes. Super Tuesday happens in March, and we'll probably see all manner of Jupiterian fanaticism directed at the LGBTQ community, right? Jupiter rules fanaticism and, right, religious zeal and fervor in general. So it's also sort of interesting that Jupiter goes retrograde just before election day in November. And he will be very unhappy and agitated in the sign of Gemini. I think it's possible we could see some wacky deception exposed. But I'm not very excited for the election coming up. Mars will also be opposite Pluto, which is not fun. But we'll do a whole nother video about that. Well, also, the Supreme Court of my state, Colorado, recently decided that Trump wouldn't be able to be on the ballot because he was involved in an insurrection. Now, I think we're likely going to see this get overturned pretty quickly, but I think we'll also see it get blown out of proportion, used as sort of a tool to galvanize people and get them really, really riled and upset. Nah! You know what I'm saying. People will freak out again. I also think we'll see some wild weather events, especially around the new moon in January, when Mars will form a trine to Jupiter. I think that could include storms, right? It could include earthquakes or even volcanic eruptions, because what's Jupiter do? It blows stuff up, right? But more importantly, what does this mean for you, right? Well, Jupiter going direct can encourage indulgence, yes? Perhaps you were being good since September, and you were trying to restrain your sweet tooth or your taste for alcohol. But you see, Jupiter direct may kick you off that wagon. So do your best to keep yourself out of vulnerable situations that you know are just not very good for you, right? Well, it also encourages our pompous side. We may feel more important or entitled than we usually do. So be careful, because this can strain our relationships, especially when we go around shoving our belly into everyone's face, which we may have a likelihood of doing. Jupiter also brings mentors or people who support our efforts into our lives. He also brings added luck or can ease stressful situations. You've likely been readdressing a situation you left undone. Or you may have felt a certain area of your life give you a sense of strain or restriction, indicated by the whole sign house Jupiter has been transiting for you. So that means we're about to do your horoscopes, yes? To see where that area of life is that's about to lighten up. Now remember, we do these horoscopes for each rising sign. But if you don't know your birth time or your rising sign, then you can watch for your sun sign. I just always recommend you find out your rising sign, because it's like the most important thing in your chart. Well, anyway, let's take a look here, shall we? Here we go. Let's find our Aries Rising homies. Okay, so for Aries Rising, this puts Jupiter in your second house of money, and it rules your 9th house of beliefs and your 12th house of mental health and isolation. This year would often bring luck with resources, but with Jupiter retrograde, you may have felt a squeeze on your finances this fall. Maybe you spent money on travel, school, medical bills, substances, or perhaps you got scammed, or maybe someone even stole from you. I mean, I've had hidden medical bills just sort of pop out of nowhere, like, oh, where did you come from? There were some hidden doctors. But Jupiter going direct should stop the financial bleeding, and you should feel less stressed about money after the holidays. It's also a great time to organize your expenses and your resources. You need to start saving and putting money away if you can. But anyway, let's move on to our Taurus Rising friends. So for Taurus Rising, this puts Jupiter in your first house and ruling your 8th house of death and debt, right? First house of self, ruling 8th house of death and debt, and the 11th house of hopes and friends. So you may have been a little depressed or felt a lack of vitality. Perhaps you were self-indulgent, right? Or doing a lot of snacking. I mean, what else do we know Taurus for, right? Anyway, you probably haven't been feeling social, and I bet other people were a drain on you, weren't they? Now, Jupiter direct will spark up your spirits. You'll probably feel more energy, more confidence, and you'll want to get out and shine again. Yes? The 8th house is also about letting go. So if you've been struggling with pain from your past, or if there's been something that you've needed to reconcile, or someone you need to forgive, now is the time to do it because it will encourage you to move on. Well, how about our Gemini Rising friends? So for Gemini Rising, this puts Jupiter in your 12th house of mental health, right? And isolation. And Jupiter rules your 7th house of partnerships and your 10th house of life direction. So this is usually a year of healing. You've probably been more interested in being alone, or you've probably realized an area of life where you need to clean up some self-destructive behavior. This could also be a time when we seek therapy or try our best to heal some situation. Perhaps your partner had a mental health crisis, or you were alienated from work somehow. Jupiter going direct should help you to address your own crises or give you the energy to help a loved one. You may also feel increasingly dissatisfied with your career or life direction and start looking for greener pastures. But it's not time to pull the trigger yet until things are clearer. You need to wait until Mercury goes direct, right? Because he's making things a bit muddled right now. But anyway, let's move forward to our Cancer Rising friends. So for Cancer Rising, this puts Jupiter in your 11th house of hopes and friends and rules your 6th house of health and obligations, as well as your 9th house of beliefs, right? This is usually a year of optimism, It's usually a time when we get support from friends and people who care about us. But Jupiter retrograde could have brought some fights with friends, or you may have had to reconcile a conflict. Maybe your beliefs cause a rift between you and your support circle, or you could have discovered a new one that's more in line with your new values. As Jupiter goes direct, though, you'll either reconnect with estranged friends, or you'll feel the pull to be more social and do things. You may also need to prioritize your goals so you don't run yourself ragged. One thing at a time. Yes? It's very satisfying to get lists and cross things off, right? Well, how about Leo Rising? We love Leo Rising, don't we? This puts Jupiter in your 10th house of life direction and rules your 5th house of children and pleasure, as well as your 8th house of death and debt, right? This is an auspicious placement. Jupiter retrograde, though, could have made you feel like you missed some opportunities, like maybe competing for a promotion with someone else and you didn't get it. Or maybe being a parent or having a bad reputation interfered. You see, you could have had a public embarrassment of some sort because this often brings public, falls from grace or losing face, yes? On the other hand, though, Jupiter going direct should bring some much well-deserved praise, especially from me, who sims for Leo risings, yes? Opportunities may pop up, or you could get support from a mentor in your field. If you've been stressed or pushing yourself too hard, life will ease up after the holidays, and you will feel the need to have fun again. And my prescription for Leo risings is to have fun with a really cute Saturn girl, because that always helps, yes? Well, anyway, how about our Virgo rising homies? This puts Jupiter in your 9th house of beliefs and travel, and rules your 4th house of parents and past, as well as your 7th house of partnerships. You see, this is a time when you're being exposed to new ideas, probably from a partner or a family member. You may also be exploring the religion or beliefs of your ancestors. Jupiter retrograde likely made you question those beliefs. Or you may have committed to a new worldview. Or perhaps a parent or a partner found Jesus, right? He's so hard to find. It's like, where's Waldo? Oh, look, where's Jesus on the beach? Is he there? I don't know. Just look for 2 sets of footprints in the sand, right? Whose footprints were those? Anyway. Jupiter going direct will encourage you to explore a new belief system, or perhaps go back to school, or even to learn a language, right? The 9th house has foreign things in it. You may have to support a partner or a parent in one of these pursuits as well. And you will likely be drawn to your family history, or perhaps even occult or arcane subjects, right? The occult just means what's hidden, right? So, well, how about our Libra rising friends? Let's go to Libra rising. Yes. You see, Jupiter is in your 8th house here, right? Of death and debt, and rules your 3rd house of extended family and community, and your 6th house of obligations and health. This is usually a year when we receive gifts from others. Could be inheritance, tax refunds, or maybe we restructure our debt. But Jupiter retrograde could force us to put additional expenses on credit. You may have medical debt, or a family member may owe you money, or perhaps you owe them money. Jupiter direct, though, will likely prompt you to make amends with family members, or it will help you get on a payment plan to get rid of an outstanding bill. Either way, you probably spent a lot of money on the holidays, and this will help you stop the bleeding, similar to our Aries friends, yes? But what about Scorpio rising? Scorpio! See, this puts Jupiter in your 7th house of partnerships, ruling your 2nd house of money and your 5th house of children and pleasure. This is usually a year when we rekindle or commit to our relationships, whether it's marriages or nesting partnerships or whatever, if you have that sort of thing. But during Jupiter retrograde, your relationships may have been strained due to issues surrounding money, children, or even sex. Could be infidelity, or it could be just infrequency. Yeah. Jupiter direct will help you to repair rifts and find mutual understandings once again. Perhaps you come up with mutual priorities, or budgets, or agreements about children with your partner. Perhaps it's even agreements about sex, right? Like, we'll do it once a week, or twice a week, or I don't know, whatever your jam is, you know. But still, it's a big deal. Either way, getting out with your partner on dates, or even by yourself to meet people, will be very important. You need to give yourself, give yourself some opportunities. How about our Sagimattarius Rising friends? Yes, Sagimattarius Rising. This puts Jupiter in your 6th house of illness and obligations, ruling your 1st house of self and your 4th house of father and origins. This is often a year of cleaning up our lives and finding satisfaction in organization. right? That can be quite satisfying. Like I said earlier, crossing stuff off lists, it can be very satisfying, right? Or we address health, nutrition, or sleep. During Jupiter retrograde, though, you may have gotten sick or felt run down. You probably also let the mess get out of hand, right? We let our house get out of sorts, you know? So, well, now that Jupiter is direct, it's time for you to go attack that Sagittarian drawer in the kitchen where you put everything that you just want to forget about, you know? It's time to attack that drawer. Use this time to make reasonable and healthy New Year's resolutions that you can gently work on for the next 5 to 6 months, right? Until Jupiter goes into Gemini. And I usually suggest, again, nutrition and sleep. Those are typical areas we need to all work on. And then what about Capricorn Rising, friends? Yes? So for Capricorn Rising, this puts Jupiter in your 5th house of children and pleasure and rules your 12th house of isolation and mental illness, right? As well as your 3rd house of extended family, community, and messages. This is usually a year of learning to have fun again, right? So enjoy yourself. Your children could also experience some luck of their own. During Jupiter retrograde, though, a sibling, a cousin, or aunt or uncle could have had a baby, or you could have had to give up some fun to help them out. Maybe it felt like you had to forego some enjoyment to help someone else. Your children could have also had a mental health crisis of their own. But now that Jupiter's going direct, you should feel more free to enjoy yourself, right? Perhaps that means enjoying yourself by yourself because the 12th house is involved. You may also want to find fun things to do in your own city or town, right? That's the 3rd house. You know, get out in your area, meet the neighbors, reconnect with family, go to some local events. I mean, I don't know what people do these days. Like, I'm barely human myself. So anyway, what about Aquarius Rising? Yes? This is me, Aquarius Rising, right? This puts Jupiter in our 4th house of parents and origins, ruling our 11th house of hopes and friends, and our 2nd house of money. Anyway, this is often a year where we see improvements to our living situations. That is, you know, it could be making money from home, or a home business, or real estate, or luck coming out of the past or from our parents. During this Jupiter retrograde, you may have had a surprise expense from your parents. Maybe one of them owes you money. Maybe one of them stayed with you at your house, spending your money. Anyway, it's likely that you also felt stagnant or hopeless. Now, with Jupiter going direct, you will likely see the money situation improve, and you will feel more confident about your aspirations and goals. I sure hope so. You will also find a better living situation, or you could, right? If rent has been a struggle, you could find some roommates, right? You could also bring some friends home with you. Not that I have any plans, but, you know. So, well, anyway, let's go to Pisces Rising. Pisces Rising, homies. This means Jupiter's in your 3rd house of extended family and messages, rules your 10th house of life direction, and your 1st house of self. This is usually a year where a family member may have come into some luck, but usually we see progress with education, writing or speaking projects, or content creation. I know this happened to me when Jupiter was in my 3rd house, making lots of stuff. Jupiter retrograde may have strained a relationship with a sibling, cousin, aunt, or uncle. It could have also made you feel a bit alone or isolated in your community. Or probably you felt like you couldn't speak up or represent yourself. Maybe other people just kept on misunderstanding you. Felt like you were speaking an extraterrestrial language. Jupiter going direct, though, will get you to speed up again, creating new projects or following through on existing ones, right? You don't want to leave that stuff hanging, as Pisces tend to do. An extended family member could also start a new job or get positive recognition. Maybe you reconnect with them or others in your community. But anyway, I hope these were useful for you. Thank you for watching until the end. Please like, subscribe, comment, and click the bell. I do tons of wonderful content, so watch my other videos. They're very educational, and I'm pretty cute and fun. Also, please consider giving to my Patreon. All the information is below. It really helps me to keep making these wonderful videos. Also, I do the best readings. It's science. All my information is also below in the description, and you can also book through my website, frankielynch.com. But most importantly, I love you. You're beautiful, and have a wonderful whatever it is you're having.